in body, mind, and soul. So please understand that even though we're looking at just being healthy in our bodies, there's more to life than that. And so keep in mind that this is where we're going, and we'd love for you to be on this journey with us as we learn together. Anything that we share in this should be considered as educational, even if we have professionals that are doing presentations and professionals that many times are able to answer questions for you. Please understand that without that one-to-one conversation and a true evaluation, there is no real way to give a recommendation specifically for any one person. But if you do have questions, you do have the opportunity to be able to reach out to us in our Facebook group. I will be sending this information out in a link during the presentation, during the time together today. But this is our Facebook group, NHE for Life, and you will be able to join us there. And all of the recordings are archived. It's a private group, and we just really recommend that as the best way to stay on top of the topics that we've presented in the past. I will also tell you that we have a prayer group. Should you desire prayer, just for anything at all, health related or not, please be sure to know that we have a group that is designed to pray for you each week we get together. So whether it's a health need, a family need, a need for financial challenges, just please know that we are willing and committed to praying for you. We'll be giving you a link shortly that will give you access to all of these opportunities to stay connected with us. And so this is our team. This is, we have, these are presenters that have been presenting since the last year and a half. We have many different presenters from all over the country, some of who are actually here in our midst today. And we have a tremendous opportunity to work together to be able to produce these programs for you. So as we then take a look, this is our outline for the program today. I want to start right here. We'll, just after I finish this introduction, we'll have a poll just to test the waters and see how much you already know about the power and the structure and the design of the cell membrane. It'll be anonymous, so don't worry, your name will not show up anyplace as to what your responses were. Then we will have our presenter for today, Dr. Rick Howard, coming to us out of Ohio. And you can see then we'll have a food prep smoothie produced and delivered by Don Hall. We'll have time for Q&A. We'll have announcements that relate to our session coming up next month. And then we'll have a closing prayer. And then we'll say our goodbyes and leave messages for each other as appropriate to our needs going forward. So that's our outline for today. And I want to stop sharing this right here. And we'll have an opportunity now to do this. I'm going to open the poll. And so we have 3 questions for you today. And the title of the poll we're getting here. Hey, Mary, we're getting music.
Can you mute all nations?
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. That did it. All right. Yeah, so he is getting that going off there. So we have, so we're at the poll. The title of the poll is, and I may even made a mistake in the title. It's supposed to be 37 trillion amazing security guards at your disposal. And some estimates even have more cells than that, but these security guards that we're talking about today are indeed the cell membranes for each living cell in our bodies. And so I'm going to hit the launch button, and you will see a pop-up on your screen. That is going to give you an opportunity to read and to answer the questions. These are multiple choice questions, and some of them have single choice. You just click a button and then you submit, and then we'll have a tally and we'll share the correct answers, and that will be our poll for today. So I want to count 3, 2, 1, 0. We're hitting launch. We want to see everybody participating. And so here we are. And you will notice then that you have a little pop-up. Go ahead and start answering. The cell membrane is a common feature to all living things, including plants. True or false? What do you say? And these are anonymous. All right, we already see people starting to answer. We have 1 person so far, 2 people so far, 3 so far. Fantastic. All right. That is going very, very well. All right, so we'll give it another few seconds to go through those, maybe up to another minute, and that'll give us an opportunity to see the results.
Structure of the cell membrane can be described as which of the following?
Okay, we have someone. Please put yourselves on mute. Appreciate that. Okay, looks like we have as many as 10 responders so far. Thank you so very much for doing that. We're going to end the poll here. And we have 11. All right, fantastic. And yes, we're doing well. I'd love to see a couple more come in. We have 22 people online. And we just really want to hear what you think about these questions. All right, so on the count of 0, we're going to end the poll. So it's 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, so let's share the results. And we're going to bring that up here, the results for the browser. I'm going to share that separately so we can see what that looks like. And let's see, that should be good. All right, so here we are. This is what we have. So we got 100% correct on the first question. Yes, the cell membrane is a common feature in all living things. That is correct. And of course, the cell membrane is also known as, the correct answer is the plasma membrane. We have 4 respondents giving us the correct answer on that one. And so, yes, the plasma membrane. And then we have kind of a tricky answer down here. The structure of the cell membrane can be described as which 2 of the following? So the correct answer are the first 2, A and B, the phospholipid bilayer and the lipoprotein sandwich. And don't know how much detail we'll get into the anatomy this evening, but if you look at a picture very closely, an illustration of what the cell membrane layer actually looks like, you would be surprised to see that it really does in many ways look like a sandwich. So thank you so very much for the participation in our poll. And at this time, I want to, let's do this. Go back right over here. I'd like to present to you our speaker for this evening. Dr. Rick Howard. Dr. Rick Howard is a naturopathic therapist, educator, and speaker. And he is amazing when it comes to teaching life principles that are biblically based, as well as natural health therapies. And he somehow has a unique way of integrating these and even expanding and contracting these ideas so that we not only understand, but that we learn and are able to internalize. And as a health educator, naturopathic therapist, he develops wellness plans that support natural therapy for many chronic conditions, including cancer, hypertension, diabetes, stroke, herpes, kidney failure, lymphatic problems, asthma, digestive issues, and even arthritis. And so please know that he's a lecturer, a presenter, spoken at several universities, hospitals, corporations, correctional and rehabilitation institutions, city health departments, and, just a wealth of information, and having had many opportunities to help people from many different faiths, from Hebrew Israelites, Muslim, Baptist, Methodists, Amish, work lectures all over the country in North America. So I'd like you to help me, and I know Zoom is crazy, right? It only really allows one person to get through at a time in the audio. But I like to challenge the technology. So if you don't mind, unmuting your microphones, please. Just unmute. Everybody unmute. Just go, let's get Zoom to go crazy tonight. And I want you to say, welcome, Dr. Rick. Let me hear you. Come on, unmute, folks, unmute. I don't see you unmuting yet. Unmute. We got to do this together and let Zoom go crazy. All right. So I see many are unmuted. So are we ready? Well, we're going to say it. Welcome, Dr. Rick. Let's go. Welcome, Dr. Rick.
Dr. Rick.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Please mute yourselves back to avoid any intermittent sounds as we go through the presentation. And Dr. Rick, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I almost feel like it's my birthday. That is so wonderful. I just want to say, and I'm going to share my screen, but I just want to say a little bit about our approach today is going to be an integrated approach. I don't want to sit and stare at scientific data and scientific information without getting to the real issue at hand, is life and how we should live life. And so as you go through, listen for the messages about life and about how you live, and then think about how to apply the technical information to that. And that's where I'm going to try to help you do that, okay? So let me share my screen here, and let's see. Let's see, we want to share this one. Okay.
Yeah, that's working.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, so we're going to, so as Brother Dale said, I'm Rick Howard. I'm a naturopath. My ministry is Genesis Health, LLC. And tonight we are talking about the cell membrane, okay? And the difference is that, and I'm gonna kind of break speaking protocol, and I'm gonna show you what I'm getting at from the very beginning. So it's almost like someone giving you a birthday gift and they tell you what's in it before they unwrap it, okay? So I'm gonna tell you what's in the gift, and then we'll unwrap it through the presentation. The cell membrane is we often talk about it as if it's a isolated thing, but every cell, as Dale said, in our body, 37 trillion or more, has a membrane, okay? And so what I want to pursue tonight is teaching you, yes, a little bit about the anatomy, but that your mindset really is the driver behind that. Food as an activator, including herbs, supplements, and your lifestyle, all of these factors are the major drivers for how your cell membrane reacts. So environment that we create with our minds can do everything from change our pH of our body to shutting down things in the processes. So we want to keep a holistic view of that. So that's where we're going to begin. And so just want to give you the premise for this. And I love this statement. It says, if you want to understand the complexity of biological systems, do not look at what they are, but what it took to make them. In other words, it will tell you more about how the membrane functions, et cetera, when you look at the elements that go into making that membrane. And so I kind of took that as my marching orders from a book from long ago. So the cell membrane, and I just wanted to take a look at it, and we're kind of looking at a slice of the membrane, right? We're not looking at the whole thing, but the three dynamics that we want to quickly talk about when it comes to the cell membrane is its form or structure, its function, and its operation. And we'll come back to this, but I want you to take a look at the picture, and hopefully you're looking at a screen that can show you some of the detail. But the cell membrane is mostly fats and proteins with some carbohydrate. So if I were to take a poll myself and say, how many types of foods are there? If you were to answer for yourself, how many types of foods are there? How many would you say? And really, we would come up with three. There's fats, there's proteins, and there's carbohydrates. Well, surprise, surprise, the cell membrane, the structure of it is made from all three of those things, the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So let's look at that a little bit closer. So the cell membrane actually refers to the outer wall of the cells. So in other words, it can also form some of the inner compartments of it, and it also helps cells link together. Now, the reason that's important is, and I want you to understand, these two layers, as was on the little quiz, they are fluid-filled pouches. So I want to compare this to maybe you lived in an apartment, or you live in an apartment, and there's a bathroom, and there's a kitchen, and there's a closet and the storage area. There are compartments and organelles, what are really little machinery, so to speak, within the cell that operate, and these things work and produce energy and all of this kind of thing. Well, the cell membrane houses that. So it's sort of like a living apartment building, but the membrane helps these structures have a place to be. So it's filled with liquids, right? And there are floating proteins throughout this. If you see the picture, it's kind of a strange looking little thing. But these are very specific protein structures that their one main job is to transport things in, transport things out, and keep things that don't belong out. That is a major perspective, and we'll get to that. But if you can see this on the screen, I've kind of tipped my hand when it comes to people understanding the relevance of this cell membrane. So about
Excuse me, Dr. Rick.
50% of the cell membrane totally unsaturated fat is DHA. Now that's more like, in I guess common terms, you would say that's omega-3. Mm-hmm. So you can ask yourself, how much omega-3 fats do you get in your diet? And where does it come from if it's so important? Okay. Now, the odd thing is, though.
Just are you intending to be on slide 1 still?
Yes. Oh, I'm just.
Just want to be sure. Yeah, just checking.
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. And I guess that means I should hurry up and change the slide.
No, not really. Just wanted to be sure.
So it's really the main thing is I want to give you a chance to absorb this, even though you're going to see this. But this fluid mosaic model that they're talking about is just referring to, if you want to think in simplistic terms, it's a pouch with liquid that has 2 layers, mostly of fats and floating proteins, and most of the carbohydrates are kind of sticking on the outside of it, even though there's some inside, but it's mostly sticking out, and they have particular roles. So let's change this. So we're going to go from the form to talking about a little bit about the function. And as we said, there's membranes around every cell. So if you can think about it, your cell is made up of these very thin pouches, walls that actually can connect to one another, but we won't talk much about that. But they connect and form this flexible stuff that we call skin and bones. Each one of our tissues are made up of millions and trillions of these cells, and they each have this membrane around it. Now, I've called this out. They are flexible. Each of these membranes, they are not like rigid little boxes, but they're more like a dynamic shape. So if you had a balloon with water in it, you could squeeze that and it would adjust. And then when you let it go, it would adjust again, its shape. So that's kind of the way that this membrane handles pressure, and that has a pretty interesting outcome if we'll talk about. But one thing I wanted to call attention to, and I'm just covering some basics about it in case you don't know much about it. High heat can cause damage to the cell membrane, and fluids can leak out. Of course, things can get in, but it kind of ruins the cell membrane, even though there is some flexibility. Now, if you look at this picture, you see these little light green bits of strings of material, cholesterol. Cholesterol actually forms to strengthen the junction.
You're going astray.
I'm sorry.
Me don't see it, me just come out.
Okay. So the cholesterol actually strengthens the junctions where these gaps are, so to speak, between where there would be gaps between the elements of the wall. The cholesterol makes sure that nothing leaks out, but it also makes sure that this membrane, the cell, stays flexible so that it doesn't get crushed with too much pressure. It can adapt. And so this is really a really important feature, because it also plays a role in our immune response. So there are certain things that can get into the membrane, into the cell, and they have to be small. They have to be what they call nonpolar. And then you have certain things that are too big and they just are kept out. Now, water, of course, is a part of every cell. CO2, which is carbon dioxide, and oxygen. These are things we need to get rid of and also to use to pass back and forth. So it's really critical that this wall stays secure. Now, one thing, and I don't want to really discuss it, but in this junction, I wanted to say, if you understood how important cholesterol is to the integrity of not only your skin, your nerves, and your brain, and all the tissues of that use fatty-based coatings like the nerve endings and all of that, how important would it be to understand that cholesterol medicine actually stops your liver or blocks your liver, depending on what you're using, from utilizing cholesterol? And so you can, with that, if you see this picture, really between these gaps or these little organisms, just imagine that cholesterol fills all the little gaps between, let's say, the skin on your hand, on your, or the membranes in your brain or nervous system. And if you were to stop that from really working, then you're going to have a problem. And they have something called, let's say, Lipitor brain, which in some cases it stops the cholesterol from ensuring proper brain membrane function, and then bad things happen. So finally, on this section, just the operation of the membrane, and I'll just cover three critical things. Number one, in order to get in or out of this membrane, size is important. And it wants small things. It doesn't allow large molecules to get through this. So only small things, only nonpolar things, and unless there are certain solvents, and then yes, that's a different story. But then secondly, you want low concentration, or the concentration of ions. So if there's a high, let's call it pressure for a moment. There's a lot of molecules of a certain type inside and a few outside, then that they call that the gradient, the concentration gradient. And so the molecules will move from low to high, okay, so that they can be more balanced. And that is important for a lot of reasons. And then number three is the charge, or we have to kind of conceive, and this might be a little technical, and I don't want to make it so, but you have to conceive that there's an electrical charge associated with this. So you thought that human beings didn't run on electricity. Well, we do. We run on electricity, and every part of our body, the muscles, the nerves, everything works by an electrical spark, that chemoelectrical spark, okay? So the membrane is so key to making that happen. It forms this network across our body that allows these charges to be balanced. And so it collects all this information about temperature, about fluid levels, whether you're drinking enough water. All of this goes into how the cell membrane responds. So essentially, it's a protective gatekeeper. It balances and sets the cell environment, okay?
Yeah,
It circulates and transports molecules in and out. So waste has to go out, nutrients have to come in, and other elements that are needed. So it sorts. And this is why so many times you talk about it and people think, oh, it's a barrier, because it does sort. And we're going to come back to that.
Dr. Rick,
it clears waste.
We're still on slide 1. Is that your intent?
No, I have moved from slide 1.
Yeah, we're still on slide 1.
Okay, well, let me see what's happening here because I'm not sure.
We got a few messages coming through. Maybe you're sharing the PowerPoint and not sharing the presentation.
Okay, let me stop it for a second here. I pointed to.
You can do a new share, and then you might be needing to share the presentation instead.
Yeah, let's go to here. Okay, let's go to here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're seeing the slides that you're looking at.
Okay, I'm sure. I thought that's what we did the first time, but I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
okay. So I guess the bottom line is this is the kind of the basement of how we promote life. I mean, all the immune functions, so many other things, and we'll touch on some of those happen as we keep care of this membrane. And that's what I want to kind of move closer toward understanding how we keep this moving, okay? So can you see the 6 major functions of the cell membrane?
Yes.
Okay. So compartmentalization is really important, and there's a whole system that the cell membrane actually builds compartments to move and transport items that are too big or different polarities. It will engulf those and then move it through a particular channel. So it creates compartments, and that is really important to its function because sometimes it's moving stuff out, sometimes it's moving stuff in. So it regulates movements of these things. It communicates, and these little carbohydrates, these little wiry things you see are receptors that communicate between cells and between the brain, I guess you could say, receiving information. There's energy conversion. ATP is made inside the cell and released, and then it's sort of like a factory. So each cell is sort of a self-contained factory that's connected to one another. Okay, so that's kind of basically the anatomy, but I want to move more towards, I guess, what I call cellular lessons, things that we can learn from this. And I want to use one illustration here to do that, to move us toward that. And this is sweating, okay? Genesis 3:19, it talks about, it says, by the sweat of your brow, this was God talking to man after they had sinned. And he said, by the sweat of your brow, you will eat food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. So sweating is not really a curse that happened. Most people look at it and say, oh, God cursed man. No, he was just really letting man know that some metabolic changes were going to be appearing where they never appeared before. And sweating is one of those things, okay? Sweating is the body getting rid of waste, responding to changes in temperature. It has to keep a balance. The cell membrane is the central portion of that. So you could say that statement kind of introduced Adam to the cell membrane, okay? God was helping Adam understand that there's waste, metabolic waste from what you eat, and from transactions that go on within the cell, that some of these you can see in the sweat, okay? Urea is a main one, which is turned into urine and uric acid, and does a number of things throughout the body. But I want to just share this one thing with you as we look at sweating. If you do not sweat, that is more a problem. It may seem to some people to be good, but it's actually the sign of a problem, because if your body doesn't get rid of this waste, you really don't, you're storing that waste in your body. So sweating helps the body keep the proper temperature, and therefore it helps preserve the cell membrane structure. So it's actually really pretty high tech. And there was an interesting study I looked at online, came out a couple of years ago, all about sweat. And the interesting thing about it was that before, most people thought that sweat was just, of course, water and salt and things like that. And it was well known that, wow, if you sweat a lot of people if you have more sodium in your sweat in your body, then a lot of it would come out through the sweat. But now this study and a couple of other studies, there was a book called The Joy of Sweat by Sarah Everts. She talks about the fact that they were discovering that actually sweat is almost exactly the same composition as the plasma of the cells. In other words, if you could go down, get really small, and check a cell and see the fluid inside that cell, it would be very similar and almost identical, they said, to sweat, okay? So that means they linked up the diet, what you do in your diet, and how you metabolize your diet to what your body gets rid of. And for the first time, they really made that linkage that the sweat gland plays a considerable role in keeping homeostasis throughout the body. But it also says something even more crucial, that what you eat matters to the waste that you get rid of. And that might seem obvious now, and it might seem obvious from years ago. We just thought, okay, you eat the wrong things, it comes out through your body. But this was, I guess you could say, a revelation that even in your sweating, it's pouring out waste and things from the through the cell membrane and from the cells. So that kind of creates something. And what I call this, instead of a cellular level, it takes us to what I call an epigenetic lesson. And what epigenetics, if you're not familiar with that term, don't worry about it. It simply means that genes are not automatically, your DNA doesn't, and genes don't automatically determine your life. The epigenetics says really the environment and what you do, how you eat, how you sleep, actually, and even the foods that you eat, drive how your genes turn on, turn off, or turn up or turn down, even with cancers and things. So another example of an epigenetic change that's lifestyle and is connected to the skin. They did a study with rats or mice, actually, and they found that the licking, a mother rat who licked her children, actually made, through that licking, changed how the genes express themselves. So we would think, oh, she's just licking and grooming them and saying she loves them, but it actually promotes genetic change in the rats. And they traced this over years of research with rats. So doesn't that make you wonder what God was saying about the sweating, or what God does when mothers groom their children and love their children, hug, and it's been shown that even that kind of change of skin touching skin changes how our bodies and our cells react. So I think that's an interesting thing. So it brings us to our first lesson point, okay? Which is body functions are lifestyle driven. Body functions are lifestyle driven. So really, it should seem obvious, but it's really not, that the things that you do in your life drive how your cells respond, okay? And even your body and the cell membrane will change its response in reaction to what you do. And let me give you a very simple example. Let's say you like coffee, or you like, let's say, tea, black tea, or you like chocolate even, okay? All these things are high in caffeine, theobromide, caffeic acid, and these chemically are very similar to uric acid. So if you were drinking a lot of coffee, or even a moderate amount of coffee, it will actually cause your cell membrane to change its function because of the nature of uric acid. Okay? So coffee becomes a driver to how your cells and even how your genes will respond. Now, there was a study of about 60, I think it was 60 healthy individuals, that they fed them a fatty, sugary meal. So I think it was like hamburgers and fries, and they had milkshakes and other things like that. So it was a high fat, high sugary meal. They measured these people before they ate and measured their white blood cell count. Then they measured them after they ate, and they did this repeatedly. They found that it took about 2 hours after the meal for the white blood cell counts to drop, okay? Just from one high fat, sugary meal, the white blood cell count dropped in about 2 hours. Okay? That's maybe not surprising. But here's what surprised me, and this was an epigenetic study. They said it took 2 weeks before the white blood cell level recovered to its pre-meal level. So one meal caused 2 weeks of disturbance in the white blood cell counts. Okay. Now that's not the most disturbing point. The most disturbing point is, okay, because we mostly think, oh, I'm going to just eat this meal today and tomorrow I'll be good. I'll get back on track tomorrow, or I'll get back on track next week, right? Have you ever said that? Okay, I bet you have. They said, if you continue that pattern, the evidence of your poor eating is not really seen fully in your lifetime. And it's really not totally seen, even though it could be depending on what you're doing, is not really fully seen in your children's lifetime. They said it's not until the 3rd or 4th generation that you will see the results of what you did, how you live, if you kept that lifestyle up. Okay, does that sound familiar? Yeah, in the Bible it says in Exodus chapter 20, visiting the iniquities upon of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me. And we said, boy, that sounds terrible of God. Why would he do that? That's not good. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, Rick, I think you should talk to yourself. The choices you are making will impact your children and your grandchildren. And when he says those that hate me, he's not talking about people that walk around and say, I hate God, I hate God. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you do not align your lifestyle with his directives. You do not do the things that he has asked you to do or he has shown you is best for your life. So even living, even eating, even sleeping, even drinking coffee, eating chocolate, or anything that you may see is not good for you. Those lifestyle-driven factors are actually going to change and degrade oftentimes your bodily function. So that's lesson number 1. I want to move on kind of quickly here. Just this theory of everything, and I'm just going to show this quickly because I want to get to just a singular point about this. And don't worry, maybe sometime later we'll come back and we'll discuss this. But I kind of crafted this chart almost like a cell, but at the center of the cell is kind of the nucleus of the human life. You have 3 powers, and I call this the theory of everything. Everything works according to law. We spend so much time on symptoms and symptomology and the weeds of study that we never get to the reason for the main event, and that's life. So your diet and how you eat is not about weight loss. It's not about muscles. It's not about sex. Those things, yeah, they'll happen along the way. But your choices for how you are really directing your, shall we say, genetic life and also your mental life is the whole point. So in the center of these circles, you see moral, mental, and physical powers. And I want to talk about these dimensions just very briefly. And the only reason I'm going over this is if we live without really understanding the dynamics of the human life, it's almost like driving without knowing the rules of driving. You can put your foot on the gas, you can turn the key, but you don't really understand that you got to stop at a red light. So these are the dynamics. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to show it to you. There are 7 dynamics. That's how I have studied and understood from the Bible, that there are 7 dynamics to life. And I'm going to show you that these dynamics affect the cell membrane and all the cells in your life. That's really what I'm getting at, okay? So there's physical, there's mental, there's moral. And that's how we come into it, we come into life, we're born physically, homeostasis, circulation, digestion and metabolism, movement, respiration. We start doing all those things before we even know that we're doing them, right? Our blood is circulating. We're digesting food. We're moving our hands and legs. We're breathing and respirating. We are eliminating waste even before we understand it. Then we go to the physical point, which has the same dynamics, it's just different phrases. And we begin to learn, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. I don't need to poop on myself. And then we learn the moral lessons of temperance and denial and all of that. But these powers are not restricted to the religious life, so to speak. And we'll talk about that. But I just wanted to show you the change of that. Now, very quickly, I'll review these. Okay, so the moral life is kind of like the driver for your life. And let me put it this way. I put on this screen God likeness, but it's not really restricted to that, and that is the way God designed it. You could choose another God if you chose to, if you wanted to. You could put a human being in that. You could put a man or a woman. You could put money. You could put anything in there. It will not fit, and it will be a task, a poor God, but people do it anyway. But let's say you want to put your football team in there, right? Then do you tell people about your football or basketball team, how much you like them? Do you witness about your football team? Yes, of course you do. Do you think about whether they win or lose the game on this weekend? If you didn't see the game, hey, did Los Angeles win? Yeah, we do. And then do you praise, oh man, Kobe Bryant was the best. I like Michael Jordan. You go through these same processes no matter what God you put in slot number 1. It drives your life the same way. And when I say at the bottom of that, purity is simply, hey, I'm not going to root for LA. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. That's purity. You keep things out. So that is how, on a moral level, we compare it to the cell structure. The cell membrane is not trying to keep things out, but is following this dynamic, and things that do not fit into the pattern or the dynamic of how the cell membrane operates, it rejects because it wants to stay, we said, exclusive in this one. Okay? So I'm just showing you the 7 dynamics of love. It works the same way. The 7 dynamics of mental life, it works the same way. We always have to wind up getting rid of waste. Whatever happens in our lives, we must maintain balance. we must communicate, we must contemplate, and eventually get rid of waste, okay? And I'm just gonna show this last one because we'll come back to it. But this is where it goes to our cell membrane. The cell membrane is, if you read about it anywhere, I've got several books on it, homeostasis is the thing they talk about all the time. Movement and circulation are things they're talking about all the time. The catabolism, they call it, and metabolism of things are processes that happen within the boundaries of the cell membrane, okay? Respiration on a cellular level is just that whole microcosm of it. I'm taking in things, I'm building other things, I'm getting rid of waste. And waste elimination is simply the cell membrane helping the body keep out anything that does not push it towards life. Now, let me show you something. I want to show you this, and I'm getting more towards how we live, but look at this statement and see what you think of it. This comes from a book called Counsels on Health, and it says, those who are content to devote their lives to physical labor and leave others to do the thinking for them fall more readily if attacked by disease. Wow. Isn't that the opposite of what you hear people say? That if you work really hard and you don't study, you'll at least be physically strong. But this statement is saying actually the opposite. Is saying if you just only work physically, but you do not use your brain to generate electrical power and electrical force, your body and the mechanisms of your body will fail. And I found a couple of studies where they were talking about how electricity is created in the brain, and how that works is sent throughout the body. And it mentions, guess what you see in that picture? The cell membrane. And the axion is the kind of the wire that carries that charge. That connects with the cell membrane and the nerve cells and all of that with their own cell membrane and wrapping of the Schwann cells around the nerves. It's the same kind of setup as the cell membrane, but I find this is the kind of lifestyle thing is my life must be balanced. I must, yes, go to the gym sometimes or go for a walk or work in the garden or do these things. But at the same time, the whole thing will fall apart if I don't exercise my brain. Okay. And in the same book, it says people don't usually die because their brain kind of is overworked. They generally die because their bodies did not have enough electrical output. So that to me is something, boy, that we could get into a little deeper, but I want to quickly kind of go to a little other things. And how am I doing on time, Brother Dale?
I think you may have about 3 more minutes.
About how much? I didn't quite hear you.
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing, and I want to just kind of give some lessons about the boundaries, okay? The cell membrane, and I call this a life template, and it's really kind of giving us lessons that we would learn from looking at the cell membrane. This first one is that the cell membrane reflects integrity. So that's boundaries, or we could call them borders, or community, loyalty, exclusivity. You know, the cell membrane only lets certain things in. It has standards according to a law. It communicates, though, and there's a robust communication, and then it has alignment. That means it does not work by itself. It works with other areas. So there's an identity that each cell has, and it's amazing that though there are 37 trillion cells, they all have their own particular identity. Their own personal cell membrane is intact. They only call one cell home. It connects to others, but it doesn't share its borders with others, okay? The life of the cell depends on the cell membrane integrity, okay? If something destroys that integrity of that membrane, then it's going to not survive. The cell will not survive. And I'm showing this castle because in old days, cities had walls to help them control who comes in and who goes out, but it mirrors more so the cell membrane in that one aspect. But it's not about just stopping things. It's about controlling access to our lives to get things done. So I want to take just a couple of one or two more minutes, but this second lesson is that my cell functions mirror my lifestyle. So how I think, the foods I eat, herbs or medicines or supplements become a statement of lifestyle. So if I do not make good choices, like the cell membrane has to make every time something comes, it says, nope, you can't get in because it's not good. Or nope, you can't get in. I don't want to let you out. I need you here. So those decisions about how we make choices mirrors how the cell membrane works. And I cannot emphasize that enough. If you just looked at foods that are helpful to the cell membrane, wow, you'd see that is really clear. And I just want to skip past this to some lessons, okay? And I just have herbs there, but it could be nutrients. Number one thing you have to do is get clear about the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you can't find an appropriate solution. Then you have to make sure that solution is appropriate for you, okay? You have to use the herbs wisely or the therapy wisely and fit the therapy into your life. These days, you see so many people fitting their life around a particular therapy. They change this, they change that, they change the other, and that's not how it's supposed to work. And thirdly, give it time to heal. People say, well, natural healing is slow. Healing always takes time. They are usually talking about relief. And if you do the right things, relief can even be very quick, and I find quicker. And I want to skip to one other thing, even though all of this is good things, but I want to show you some foods and such that I'll just wind down on this part, that fit, care for your cell membrane. And it's mostly from research, it's the fats that you need, mostly non-animal fats, plant-based fats. They do talk about fish and things like that, salmon, but there's a lot of problems with that. But look at these foods. Garlic, onions, beets, carrots. They're antifungal, antiviral. They reduce cholesterol, raise HDL, clear the lungs, bronchitis, promotes circulation, reduces clots. So these are just everyday foods. And I wanted to start there because you don't have to go out and spend tons of money on everything if you learn to build your lifestyle. If you're already in a ditch, then yes, you're going to spend some money to get out of that ditch. But if you learn to build your body with food, the cell membrane will thank you by effectively getting rid of toxins and keeping your body strong. So I'll just show you one more thing and then I'll turn it back over. I had gotten these things for lung function, and that's because the respiratory tract, the lungs, the digestive tract, and the sinuses as well are specific areas where those membranes come under a lot of attack. So citrus fruit, carrots, cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, all of these things really are amazing for helping your body stay healthy and not, be worn down. So I was a little longer than I planned, so I'm gonna just end right there, and maybe I can show a slide or two at the end with the herbs and things. But I'll turn it back over to you, Brother Dale.
Wow. Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Rick. This is really giving us a good idea that lifestyle matters. Lifestyle makes a huge difference. And the last slide that Dr. Rick put up there, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to allow our Facebook group to have a copy of those slides, Dr. Rick.
Well, we'll work out something.
Yeah, okay. Even the last few would be excellent. But I'm going to put in our chat window right now for those of you who would like to stay connected with us, just so that you would know that we have the ability for you to join our Facebook group and also to get additional information from and a copy of this very presentation will be in this group as well. So we are going to, that last slide that showed the smoothie, we're going to have a demonstration of it right now, because we would like to bring to the screen and to the audio Don Hall, who is becoming our resident food prep enthusiast.
Got that right. Hello, everyone. Thanks to Dr. Rick again for such a wonderful presentation on cell membrane. I must say I learned a lot. And I just have the privilege today to make a smoothie demonstration that could help to aid cell membrane, right? As we were discussing just a while ago, cell membrane is very important. And as we think about the food that we eat and the epigenetics and how the cell expresses itself, we need to use correct foods for the cells to be able to express themselves correctly. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to be doing a smoothie. And the smoothie is based on the science behind it, or the chemistry behind it. It helps with the digestive system, and it also helps the cell membrane to express itself correctly. So with this one, I'm going to be using 1 pineapple, and this is the juice also off of a pineapple, which is about 2 cups. And then, the recipe called for ginger, grated ginger, but it also said that we could use real ginger. So I'm going to be using 2 inches of ginger. And I'm also going to be using half of a pineapple. The pineapple, since we're going to be blending it, and I'm going to be using a high-powered blender, we could also use the core of the pineapple. So this is about half of a pineapple. It's going straight into the blender. I'm also going to be using papaya. And for this recipe, we're also going to be using the seeds of the papaya as well. We're not going to leave, we're not going to destroy, throw away anything. We're also going to be using the seeds of the papaya. So this is about a half of a papaya. One mango. Three kiwis. Oh wow, blender is getting full. One apple. And 3 figs. So I'm going to be blending in the meanwhile. I'm going to be muting my camera so you won't be able to hear the sound. But as soon as the smoothie is blended out, I'll get back to you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Don, and he'll be able to share that with us. If there are any questions at this time, we'd like for you to go ahead and put them in the chat window for Dr. Rick and for the presenters this evening. Questions in the chat window would be a good time to get started with that. And we want to also let you know we put the link in the chat window, so please use that link so that you can stay connected with our Facebook group, our Natural Health Meetup group. Request prayer. You'll also be able to get questions answered in our Facebook group. If you send us a message there, that gives you a point of communication and a point where all of our presentations are archived. We have guides, we have recipes, we have everything just for our private Facebook group. Currently, we have 107 members, and we're looking to add more members just to be able to serve a larger community so that you will be able to use and reuse the information that's there to your health. It's just amazing that lifestyle really matters. In my experience, I will tell you that this year, this month, in fact, is my 12th year of celebrating being diabetes free, just from changing my lifestyle. And I have a book published on Amazon with my story, but it's just an amazing journey to see how much energy, how healthier we can be, and how much more energy we can have as a result of using the information that Dr. Rick shared with us this evening. So now he's back.
I am back and the smoothie is done. As you can see from the ingredients that we use, we got 1 full 60 ounces jar full of smoothie. And according to the recipe, this smoothie is good for 2 to 3 days, locked up in a tight seal container in the refrigerator. You drink at your leisure. But I'm going to do a taste test, guys. As you can see, it's flowing. It's not too thick. The recipe also said if you want it a bit watery, you could add a little bit more juice into it.
Mm-hmm. I like how you filled up the whole thing.
People, it is delicious. I could drink this every day. I could really drink this every day. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm sure Dr. Rick is going to be sharing the recipe with you guys, so you could go ahead and try. But this one stands approved by Donald. Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. So we'd like to open the floor for any questions. I prefer if you use the chat window for that. If you're not comfortable using chat, please unmute your microphone or raise your hand in the Zoom window, and we'll be happy to entertain questions at this time.
Well, until you get some, I could just
go right ahead and share some
talk about the drink that Don made. Mm-hmm. Is really what they call a protease drink. Okay, all the ingredients are very effective at breaking down proteins, and so I use it a lot for people who are having joint pains or having digestive issues of one sort or another. And it really helps different types of pain, but it kind of backs up one of my sayings that if you eliminate waste, you eliminate pain. So just getting the waste out of your system, breaking down the food properly will give you less inflammation and move you on to bigger and better things.
Okay. So we do have a question on our Facebook page. What about foods high in oxalates? Is there any information on that? And also, someone is claiming that they really love coffee. What are your responses to those two?
So here's the thing. I'll deal with the last one and come back to the first one. But I had a lady who had rheumatoid arthritis, and it was really, really bad. I mean, her knuckles and things were gnarled, and she was using steroids and methotrexate and all these kinds of things. Really a lot of pain, okay? So I changed her diet, told her to get rid of, she was eating a lot of meats. I said, okay, stop that, stop her coffee, stop this. She did, and I put her on some herbs. Well, in about 3 or 4 days, she reported she had no pain, even though she had had this arthritis for years. No pain in about 3 days or so. And, but then she stayed like that for a couple of weeks. Then after a couple of weeks, she had more pain. And I said, well, what are you eating? And she said, well, I did go back to eating the things I was eating before. I said, well, you got a good lesson, and here it is. Very simple. You can either keep the pain and keep living with it, or you can get rid of the thing that's causing you the pain and move forward pain-free. And I would say about coffee, it's about that simple. It's almost like the cell membrane. We got to learn there are certain things the cell membrane says, nope, this is not coming in, and we got to go from there. Oxalates, I don't really, I mean, I know what people say about oxalates and problems that they can cause. I've never had that problem, though. I've never, in all the clients, if you get your digestion together, let's say, for example, if you are a rice lover, let's say, then do you know there's something in rice called phytic acid that will block up to 85% of the iron you can absorb from that meal. So what do? Do you stop eating the rice? That's a toss, right? But not really. You don't have to. You can make the iron, and I'm talking plant iron a lot, even though people mistakenly feel in meats there is non-heme iron as well as heme iron. It's just that it's mostly heme iron. But so I think that you really want to first do this process. Learn what's going on in your body. Learn what weaknesses there are or are not. And then talk about the foods. Don't make a blanket decision for foods before you really understand what's going on in your body. Oxalates included. I've never really seen a person that once you really applied that, then I never had a problem. They never had a problem with oxalates. So I don't think that that's really the issue that people are making it to be.
Yeah, there is a question in chat regarding Lipitor.
Okay, yeah.
how to perhaps use some natural remedies that may help to reduce the issue of cholesterol.
Again, I'm going to point you to this. There, in this little book, and you may have heard of this book, it's called The Ministry of Healing. And on page 127, 128, it gives a 4-step kind of approach towards healing. It says, number 1, ascertain the cause. In other words, find out as much as you can about what's causing the problem. Number 2, remove obstructions. In other words, coffee in a case for some people could be an obstruction. It is something that is causing an issue. You know it's causing the issue, move it out of the way. 3rd, remove bad habits. In other words, I have some habits with which I just, it's just killing me. Okay, then I'm always praying, but then you can develop strategies. And this is why I say lifestyle is the answer. You can develop strategies that will help you mold your lifestyle while God helps you gain victory over those things. So how does that apply to cholesterol and Lipitor? Number 1, blocking the cholesterol. Most of the cholesterol in your diet, in your body, comes from your liver. So what you're doing with Lipitor is actually causing your liver to dysfunction. Okay? That is how Lipitor works. It blocks the liver from making cholesterol, which affects your brain, which affects your nerves, which affects the cell membrane. So really, it's going to cause you more problems than you want. So you want to see you can have an infection that can cause cholesterol. Dietary imbalance can contribute to that. You can have, and just to give you one example, an infection could be EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, which over 90% of the people in the U.S., some say closer to 98%. I think the CDC says 98% of the people have been exposed to Epstein-Barr, and it can cause liver dysfunction. So instead of looking first to take something, even if it's a natural thing, I mean, there are all sorts of things that, you can get, but even if that thing lowers your cholesterol, are you really solving the problem? So before you jump to solving something like that, look at the problem more closely, and then we get to what can you take. I mean, there are things that you can use, but I always start with based on the problem. I see the one lady needs help with her diabetes. Yes. And I'll tell you quickly, it is, I don't see diabetes as a disease, which I know is I'm waiting for people to throw rocks through the screen, right? It is an alarm, okay? So usually when you have uncontrolled diabetes, what you're going to find is the kidneys are in trouble. That's usually, doctors will say, oh, the diabetes causes kidney problems. And that could be true. That is, the inflammation is somewhat true. But kidneys are the last organ to reabsorb glucose from the bloodstream. And so usually you're going to find, if you correct your kidney problems, most very difficult diabetes problems will go away. And so changing your diet, I had one lady who used to regularly have blood sugars 300, 400. Mm-hmm. That would be regular for her. Mm-hmm. I mean, she didn't consider it serious till it got up to 600 or 700. Mm. Okay, so here's the problem. I said, for an immediate answer, I just want you to go for a walk. Okay, and she was able to do that. Well, she went for a walk, and I said, if you walk for 30, 40 minutes, it'll lower your blood sugar. So she did that, and the first time she walked, her diabetes, her blood sugar fell over 74 points or 75 points the first time she walked. Okay, so drinking more water dilutes the glucose plasma levels, and that will lower your blood sugar levels. So again, look at the cause. What is the cause of that? If you're taking steroids or you're taking antibiotics, that will raise your blood sugar levels. So there are many, many causes of elevated blood sugar that we need to look at. And then we can, yes, talk to a lot of reasons for that. A gallbladder problem is generally a liver problem. Okay, so there are a number of herbs and things that you can do to help the liver. Carrot juice is wonderful for helping liver and preventing gallstones. Gallstones are a kind of pH problem, though, in your digestive tract and in your liver. And when that gets to a certain point, the body calcifies the bile there, and then you get these stones, and then all sorts of weird things happen. So there are herbs like ginseng. There are other herbs that you can use, yellow dock, burdock. I'm trying to think of basic ones that people would know. Those are excellent for helping the liver, and then that will prevent gallstones. Now, there are things like stone root, bearberry, bayberry, both of those, bearberry and bayberry. Bearberry is usually called usa erva. That one will help prevent and get rid of stones, either kidney stones and gallstones. So the key with gallstones is the liver. Okay, that is really essentially the key, and not eating a lot of greasy fried foods. If you eat greasy fried foods, you're going to have gallbladder problems. And I have the most dramatic story I can think of. There was a young lady on her way to the hospital, got to the hospital with gallstones, was going to have surgery, get her gallbladder taken out. She had a fever, so she didn't get the surgery. We got to give her some herbs and things. She never went back, and she had no more problems with the gallbladder. So
I just put the information to reach out to Dr. Rick Howard, genesishealthforliving.com is his website. Feel free to reach out to him. I also put a link to stay connected with us. If you have specific questions, we have coaches that are available, and we'll direct you to professionals that, such as Dr. Rick, that can provide you professional help. But this has been an amazing story. Thank you so much, Dr. Rick, for sharing with us. And we are now coming to the end of this session. It's already a little over time, and we apologize for that, but we really wanted to be sure that you understand that when we talk about 37 trillion cell membranes, it's not about a magic bullet, so to speak, but it kind of is, right? It's about the lifestyle. It's about those choices that we make each and every day to be able to get our bodies working the way they're designed to be made to work. So I'd just like to mention that you are here. It's the same place, the same time next month, October 11. We're going to have speaking Ramon Irizarry. He is going to be speaking about a health center that actually teaches, and you can go to see and live for a couple of weeks just with the lifestyle training that Dr. Rick spoke about today. A center that's here in Illinois, and he will be speaking and sharing with us, and also sharing with us some very amazing pictures of before and after as to how the blood actually responds to these changes in lifestyle. And so we'd love for you to join us, tell a friend, pass the word on. And if you are interested in receiving information by email and or by text message, just look for my name in the chat sequence there. It's Michael Dale Campbell, and I will be happy to get that email address, or simply use the Stay Connected information, and that will get you in touch with us as well. We'll be happy to continue our consultations. We're going to wrap up with prayer. Pastor Atkins, are you still with us? Okay, I don't think he was able to hang on. So we're going. Okay, I got your email, and I'll be sure to add you to our list. Shall we bow our heads for our closing prayer at this time? Our kind Heavenly Father, we are indeed thankful that you have created this universe. You've created the tools, the resources that we need in order to obtain our health and to maintain our health. Thank you, God, for these resources. May we continue to learn so that each and every day, even as we get older, that we can be healthier each and every single day of our lives. Thank you for hearing, for answering, and for being a blessing to all who've attended and those who will attend in the future. And this we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Brother Dale, I'm going to send you a resource that you can put on your on the website or on the Facebook.
Yeah.
It's a program that I'm starting. It's called What's Your Problem?
Okay.
And anybody who has a health question,
yes,
they can call our number and leave a message, record their question, and we'll put that in our podcast and answer their question. So it's called What's Your Problem? We'll send that out.
That'll be fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, folks. Well, it is time for us to say good night. And thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again next month, October 11th. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, night.
Yes, Dr. Francina.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
See you, Prince.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll talk.
Okay now.